Okay, everyone, the time is 5:05, and just as a reminder, if somebody were to miss the first part of the meeting, this will be recorded and can be viewed from the website that led you to this presentation. So I want to welcome everyone to the virtual public hearing for the Route 11 roundabout in Smyth County, the proposed Route 11 roundabout in Smyth County. We will have two brief presentations. Mr. Ron Flannery is going to do a presentation regarding the roundabout, and Mr. Jeff Powell is also going to give an update on the status of the McMullen Bridge. And that will follow Ron's presentation, and then we will have a question and answer portion of the presentation where we'll use the chat feature to ask any questions that you may have. So we'll go over the ground rules of how to ask a question after both gentlemen have presented. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ron Flannery for his presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Flannery, and I'm the project manager for the project we're going to discuss this evening. Now, I'll go ahead and tell everybody that the pollen is really getting the best of me right now, so please bear with me. I'm coughing a lot and clearing my throat, so I apologize. So the virtual design public hearing has been convened by the Virginia Department of Transportation and is being held to receive and consider comments for the proposed construction of a roundabout at the north intersection of Route 11 and Route 660 Railroad Drive. Given the unique circumstances of the COVID-19 outbreak, along with our commitment to protecting public health, Vdot is conducting this virtual design public hearing to avoid in-person contact. This presentation will cover the same information that Bristol District staff would have shared during the in-person meeting. However, the comment process will be different. Details on how to submit your comments and have your questions addressed will be covered later in this presentation. All project information can be found on Vdot's website. You may have attended previous public hearings conducted by Vdot. However, for the benefit of those that have never attended one, I would like to explain why and how Vdot conducts a public hearing. A public hearing has four essential purposes. First, to inform the public on the status of the planning of the project and to present the recommendations based on the design to date. Second, to describe the project so that those attending can determine if the project will affect their lives and property. Thirdly, to provide the public an opportunity to see information and express their views at this stage in the planning process when flexibility to respond to comments still exists before design decisions are finalized. Lastly, this hearing is also used to develop a record of public views and participation to accompany recommendations for subsequent decisions. This virtual public hearing is being held in compliance with state laws. The transcript for this hearing will be made available for the official record. The department will proceed with the final documentation for the design approval process. Your statements and comments will be addressed in this document and will be given full consideration in the final recommendation of the design of the project. We have a few members of the team online with us today that I will introduce. We have Tamara Pritchard, the Vdot Bristol District Location and Design Engineer, Michelle Earle, Bristol District Communications Manager, Maurice Hughes, Civil Rights Specialist, Richard Buckingham, Hydraulic Engineer, Dennis Sanders, Assistant Environmental Manager, David Duncan, Right-of-Way Manager, Jeff Powell, the Assistant Structure and Bridge Engineer, and Andrew Payne, he's out of the central office, he's the Project Design Engineer. During the presentation, if you have any questions, they can be submitted through the chat box. After the presentation, we will stay online to answer as many questions as possible. If your question does not get answered due to time limitations, we will follow up promptly. This slide contains the agenda for the virtual design public hearing. We will review briefly the public comment process. Comments will be accepted in a number of ways. You may leave a verbal comment via a voicemail at 276-696-3252. Submit a written comment via email using ronald.flannery@vdot.virginia.gov or via mail at Virginia Department of Transportation, 2111 Bonham Road, Bristol, Virginia, 24201. Attention, Ronald Flannery. Alternatively, online in the chat feature or on the project page on Vdot's website at www.virginiadot.org/Roundabout Smyth County. Comments must be received or postmarked within 10 days after the virtual design public hearing, June 6, 2021, to be considered part of the official record. So the project history, this project, Smyth County submitted an application for this project to Vdot to be funded through its Smart Scale program, a statewide prioritization of projects that are scored based on an objective, outcome-based process. In spring of 2019, the project was selected through the program, and $3.6 million was allocated for planned development, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. The purpose of this project is to improve traffic flow, safety, drainage in the Route 11 660 intersection area. The roundabout will have a single 16-foot travel lane, 24-foot truck apron, and 40-foot center island. The roundabout will have a concrete curb and gutter with grass in the middle. Additionally, the connecting road segments will have 13-foot down to 12-foot opposing lanes and will use both curb and gutter and shoulders. Features of the Route 11 660 roundabout project include constructing a 120-foot diameter roundabout, construct a concrete truck apron and raised splitter islands to control traffic flow, connect two segments, Route 11 and Brown Subdivision Road. Technical documentation for this project has addressed the potential environmental impacts identified in the preliminary engineering process. These areas of consideration include those listed on this slide. So these are archaeological resources, historic resources, wetland waters of the U.S., biological resources, and hazardous material. For specific information regarding the environmental review for these projects, the environmental documentation for each project is available on the project webpage that led you to this presentation. As the design is developed, Vdot will determine what right-of-way and easements will be needed to accommodate the construction. The property owners will be notified of the exact location of the right-of-way and easements needed during the right-of-way acquisition process and prior to construction. Right-of-way acquisitions will begin in late 2022, early 2023. Let me provide you now with information regarding the anticipated right-of-way for this project. This slide shows the approximate estimation of acres needed for permanent and temporary easements for this project. The right-of-way will be acquired from one affected property owner. No businesses, residents, or nonprofit organizations will be displaced as a result of this project. All right-of-way acquisitions will be completed in accordance with the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970, as amended in 1987. The acquisition of necessary rights of way for this project will be handled by Vdot. All proposed acquisitions will follow federal and state laws and Vdot policies and procedures. The Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policy Act of 1970, known as the Uniform Act, is the federal law that is followed for appraisals, negotiations, and relocations of families and businesses. Each property will undergo a valuation process to determine the fair market value for each acquisition. During negotiations, the landowner will receive a copy of the acquisition valuation, a title examination, a bona fide offer in writing for the acquisition, along with all pertinent construction plan sheets. The Vdot negotiator will communicate with the landowner to ensure all questions, comments, and concerns are addressed. So the project funding and the estimate for the project. The project has been awarded $3,572,022 of smart scale funds. There you can see the breakdown for preliminary engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. To recap, in January 2019, preliminary engineering was authorized to begin. In September of 2020, the scope of work for the project was completed. We are here today to review and discuss the current design for the project. Comments must be submitted and received 10 days after this meeting to be considered a part of the design approval process. After comments are received and addressed, a request for design approval will be made to the chief engineer for approval. After receipt of approval, the right-of-way acquisition and final design process will begin. Anticipated advertisement for construction is December 2023. Slide on the screen recaps the ways to submit your comments during and after the meeting. Please remember, comments must be received or postmarked within 10 days after this virtual public hearing we're doing now, and that is June 6, 2021, to be considered part of the official public hearing record. Did you have any further questions? Please feel free to contact me at the number or email listed. Thank you very much for watching and participating in this very important virtual design public hearing for the Route 11660 Roundabout project. This concludes the virtual design public hearing presentation. This is the first presentation. So
thank you, Ron.
So
if we'll go ahead and, Ron, if you'll go on mute, I'll go ahead and introduce Jeff. Jeff is our, as Ron alluded to, Jeff is our assistant bridge engineer. And although the McMullen Bridge is not part of this project, we wanted to give an update to folks about the status of that project. So Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Let me go ahead and make sure I get my screen shared here. Change from Ron's. If you'll let me know when you see that, make sure I am sharing.
I do see it, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Powell. I am the Bristol District Assistant Bridge Engineer in charge of preliminary design and development of bridge projects. I'm now going to give you an update on the progress Vdot has made concerning the Railroad Drive Bridge replacement. As Michelle said, this is not necessarily part of this public hearing, but there was a lot of people who shown interest, and we appreciate everyone's interest regarding this. So we wanted to give you this update today and tell you kind of where we stand. And again, this is not the project Vdot's developing in the roundabout, but this is the one I'm talking about is for the bridge replacement, which you can see here. It is adjacent to the roundabout. And we appreciate everyone's interest and how that they've shown in the bridge. And like I said, I'm going to provide you with an update on the status. Since the bridge was closed in 2014, we have considered a number of alternatives to address the access concerns of the subdivision residents and identify funding to replace this structure. Due to the railroad regulations and the proximity of the Railroad Drive Bridge to the Route 11 intersection, which is the emphasis of this hearing, it's not possible to replace the bridge with a new structure in its current location. Our plan is to build a new structure to the west of the existing bridge, which will meet the required clearances for the railroad and provide a second access into the subdivision. The funding available for this type project is awarded on a competitive basis. We've included this project in applications for state of good repair funding over the past few years. However, due to other priorities across the state, it was not selected. This year, the bridge replacement project has been selected as a potential candidate pending CTB approval for funding and is moving through the approval process for inclusion in the upcoming 6-year plan. The 6-year plan identifies projects to be funded over the next 6 years and is typically adopted in June by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So we're about in June, so we'll have that process here shortly. Once funding is received, the design of the project will begin with the PE and right-of-way and construction to follow in subsequent years. The current 6-year plan is for fiscal years 2022 through 2027. That means this project, if approved in the plan, should receive funding beginning in approximately fiscal year 2026 or 2027, which is calendar years 2025 or 2026. We will schedule a separate public hearing for this project during the PE once the design is developed, and we will not be accepting comments on the bridge project at this time. We're just giving you an update as part of the Roundabout project. Our goal is to replace the existing bridge with a new structure, providing access to the subdivision, improving the safety of the roadway, and minimizing delay to the traveling public. We continue to look for opportunities to move this project forward, and your input is valuable to realizing this goal. And with that, that's the end, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. Oh, if you'll go ahead and mute, sorry. Hold on one second, and I too am going to share a screen just so we can get to the comment portion of the meeting. Jeff, can you come on mute and tell me if that's showing correctly?
It is.
Okay, thank you. So in order to ask your question, should you have a question regarding the Roundabout project, we'll be using the chat feature just to simplify things and to ensure we don't have any audio issues. If you prefer to state your question aloud versus using the chat, we would ask that you type your name in the chat and we will call on you individually, and you can come off mute and ask your question and then go off mute after you've asked your question. When the chat function is on, which it is on now, all participants are able to see all the messages. And we ask that you only write questions, please. The chat function shouldn't be used for any other type of commentary during the meeting. We also, for those of you on the phone, have the ability for you to ask questions as well. If you could push *3 to raise your hand, you'll be added to the queue to ask your question. We will announce when it is your turn to ask your question, and we will unmute your phone line. You will hear your line has been unmuted, after which you will be able to ask your question. And once you have asked your question, you can press *3 again to lower your hand, and then you'll be muted again. So that's the big part about that. And if I can get this screen off, we will. Okay, stop sharing. All right. So if anyone has any questions, you can simply type those in the chat feature, And we'll just be on mute here, awaiting any questions you may have. Oh, we have one coming in now. Great. Okay. This question is about drainage corrections. When you are looking at drainage corrections for the project, will you be addressing the drainage from the park and ride as well? The county has been dealing with issues at the convenience center to the west of this parking lot when it rains, and some of the drainage issues we are dealing with can likely be attributed to at least the parking lot, if not the intersection. Ron, do you want to answer that or throw that one to Richard?
I could attempt to answer it, but Richard would be more, and we're supposed to chat. But so whatever you think, Richard would be the defining authority on it.
Hello, Michelle. This is Richard. To my knowledge, the parking ride has not been addressed in this project. This project is looking to facilitate and manage the stormwater associated with it. So I'm not aware of any provision that would accommodate the parking ride facility.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was on mute earlier. And I just wanted to also say to Mr. there is an online survey for this public meeting on the page that led you to the presentation. If you would like to take that survey and put any suggestions or questions you may have there, and those will be addressed in the formal record. The chat function will not be used as part of the formal record. We would still need a survey filled out. There's a PDF copy for printing, or there's an electronic survey on that page. Let's see if we have any more questions. Oh, thank you, Mr. Okay, we will, it's 5:28, and we'll just hang out here for about 5 or 10 minutes and allow time for anyone to pose a question you may have. Again, if you have a question and you're on the video on the WebEx, you can chat your question or raise your hand if you're on the phone by pressing *3, and we will call on you. Okay, I'm just checking in. It's 5:30 by my phone, so we'll stay on until 5:35, and just want to remind folks that you can watch the entire presentation on WebEx in the coming days. It will be available on the page that led you to this presentation, and also we would love for you to fill out one of the comment forms on that page, whether it be the electronic one or the a printable one that you can mail to us. So I'll come back on at 5:35 to end the meeting, but we'll just hold on here in the event that there are any additional questions. Okay, folks, having seen no hands raised and no further questions in the chat, I'll go ahead and conclude this meeting. We appreciate everyone's participation, and please send us any comments you have, and feel free to give Ron a call if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you.